Society's yesteryear event based on the theme of crime. I struggled to find any record of crime in Drumquin, so we've had to go a wee bit further afield. Okay, we're very honest, law-abiding people in this parish. A couple of things just first of all, a couple of housekeeping issues. Just in terms of in the event of any emergency, your emergency exit is here to your left and at the back the door you come in. And the ladies' toilets are over to your left and the men's toilets are out that back door as well, the way you come in. Okay? Now we've a long evening ahead of us. There will be an interval for tea and coffee and refreshments halfway through. Now, this event, first of all, I must say, is made possible with the assistance of Linking Generations NI, who provided small financial assistance to us. It's a great help. Covers the basic costs of this event. Any additional costs are led by ourselves in Drumquin Historical Society. So there was a donation box as you came through the door there. And there's no obligation to pay anything, but if you feel like you want to make a donation, you'll be gratefully accepted. Okay? So thanks to Liam and Seamus there for providing the music just as you move away into the hall. Thanks as well to Langfield Youth Hall here for the use of their magnificent facility. It's recently renovated, and it's fantastic. Now, we're going to start now with, we have some of our local children here who are going to talk about school days, shopping and playing, comparing 1923 with today's 2023 experiences. So we have Kieran Gormley will be up first, then Lana Gormley, followed by Jim Gormley, then we have Emer Kearney, Roisin Gormley and Matthew Lee.
It's the same thing when it comes to haytime. Daddy needs my help, so there'll be no school again for 3 more days. I don't mind, as I don't see the point of going to school anyway. I want to be a farmer like Daddy. My sister loves school, but she must leave when she's 14. My daddy says there's no money to pay for her to stay on. And not much point in educating a girl. It's as the same as she has to give up work when she gets married and has a baby anyway. I hate school. The schoolmaster, Mr. King, has taken a pick at me. In his eyes, I can't do anything. Very rarely I make it in the home time without getting sick of the best. He tries hard to make me cry, but he won't give it in. There are 8 of us walking to school together. 3 Delaney's, 2 Carries, Adam Haney, and 2 of us. With many boys with hardy books, and always picking fights with the rest of us. It's a mile from our home to school, but others live another half a mile further away. We climb trees and skim stones off the lake we pass. We torture old Bill Manning by shooting at his dog. He told Mr. King, and I got Hannah's words. In summer we walk the shore bare feet, and in the winter we had to take 3 turf into the fire. Mommy always tries to have a slice of bread for me to take with me. But sometimes I eat it on the way, and then I regret it later when it's dinner time. We're awake again today, and no distraction for me.
School each morning and also sitting after school. Even Allison, our teacher, brought our class to the Tectonic Centre in Belfast. Our principal can be a bit touchy. My best pal Amy and I were running down the corridor and he shouted at us to go and sit in the classroom for the rest of break time. Mummy sent him an email telling him not to do it again without consulting her first. We have our dinner in school. Most of the time it isn't bad. After dinner, a few of us go to the library and play games on the computers. I can't wait until next month. We're away for a week to France on a school trip. Mummy moans about how much it will cost, but I know I'll be going. She has me spoiled. I want to go to university in Edinburgh to do business studies.
Michael and Anne, our cousins, came to visit us for the weekend. On Saturday morning, we played hide and seek for several hours, then went down and paddled in the river. We tried our best to catch minnows, but they were too quick for us. We went home and had our dinner and headed down to the chestnut tree. We brought home a dozen or so conkers, strung them and played them all afternoon. After tea, John and played marbles, and while Kitty and Anne played hopscotch. Before we went to bed, we had a game of snakes and apple bladders. Michael has slept in with John and me, Anne slept in with Kitty. The weather was good again on Sunday, so we all headed out to the fields, to the fairy fort. Daddy says there's a little folk who live there, and we would be careful not to annoy him, or they might put a spell on us. Our dog Ned came up upon a rabbit and gave a chase. We were hungry, then decided to rob Andy Caroline's orchard for apples, but his dog appeared and made a real racket, so we got no fruit that day. We scarfed fairly quickly. If he'd caught us, we'd be given a licking, and so would Daddy when we got home.
I have a pony called Daisy, which Daddy bought me 2 years ago. I just love show jumping, and we drive to different shows this weekend. We have a really big horse story which Mummy drives, and where we can sleep if we need to stay overnight. Yesterday was my birthday, and I had a big party. Mummy and Daddy brought me the latest iPhone. I have hardly switched it off since I got it. Tonight my best friend Katie is coming over, and we'll probably spend a few hours on the PlayStation or singing karaoke. I got a new game a month ago and we love playing it. I used to play for the local girls football team, but now I stay in my room mostly playing games or texting my friends. Sometimes I get nasty messages from girls at school who don't like me, which can be very upsetting. Daddy is an accountant and he's always urging me to study hard so I can follow him into the profession. My favourite job would be a TV presenter.
Yesterday after school, Mummy sent Tom and I to Crawford's shop. I asked her why she didn't go herself when she's at home all day. She cuffed me around the ear and told me she hadn't time, what with having to wash our clothes by hand, feed the chickens, bake the bread, go to the well for water and look after Granny was a bit demented. It's over a mile away, but it was a lovely warm evening, so we dandered along picking blackberries and strawberries in the hedges. I'd rather go to Gartland's shop, but it's much further away. Mrs. Gartland is very decent. She would never let you leave without giving you a book of sweets. This is the list of items Mummy wants. 3 clay pipes and a plug of Warhose tobacco for Grandpa, an ounce of snuff for Granny, baking soda and cream of tartar for baking bread, tea, sugar and salt. We also bring home paraffin oil for the lamps. When we hadn't paid for, we had 2 pennies left. We bought brandy balls with them, as they last a really long time. As we came out of the shop, Barney Boyle was passing his donkey and cart and stopped to give us a lift. Even though the jar of paraffin oil is only half full, Tom nearly spilled it all over the groceries. Another
Works as a GP all week, so on Friday evening she does her weekly shopping at a large supermarket. Stacey, my sister, and I go with her. You can buy nearly everything in this place. We get to pick a few items we like. I love pizzas and usually end up with 2 or 3 different varieties. Stacey has a sweet tooth and is always trying out new chocolate, ice cream and drinks. We like fruit too, especially pineapples, grapes and pomegranates. We all like different breakfast cereals, so Mum has to buy about 4 different ones every week. Mum usually swears when she is presented with the bill, which is usually well over £100. We usually have 6 whole bags to load in the car. Then we call into McDonald's for burgers and chips and Coke to wash it down.
guy who was murdered was William Glass. He was murdered by a local police inspector, Thomas Hartley Montgomery. Now, this story could have been told to you by another guy called Martin from our Straw. He knows this story much better than I do, but he's unavoidably, he's in Elster tonight, so I'll try and run through it for you here. Montgomery and Glass were good friends, but that didn't make a difference when it came to money. Montgomery himself, a local police inspector, was a bad gambler, and he had borrowed lots of money from his friends and colleagues to help him with the gambling. But the situation got so bad that he thought that to get rid of all his debts, he would try and rob the bank. So the scene was set. He and Glass were good friends and often played golf together and so on. And most afternoons, Montgomery would go to the bank and they would chat and blather during the evening. As was his custom, Montgomery came to the bank and was let into the side door. And he and Glass had the usual little bit of a talk together, chat and blather. There's a couple of customers still left there, but they soon left and they were left by themselves. Anyway, Glass then decided that he would gather up all the money. So he started to count up the money, put all the ledgers together, and when it all counted up, he headed into the back office where the safe was. Montgomery followed him, and as he was about to put the money into the safe, Montgomery reached for a bill book. I'll show you one here. So something like that. Although in the olden days they were much heavier and stronger built, but basically something like that. Pretty vicious weapon. So he slashed at him and thumped him over the head. Glass tried to escape and ran back out into the outer office, but Montgomery came after him and slashed him over the head again, and he fell down pretty much dead. But just to make sure he was dead, Montgomery then, and if you recognise one of these things, before the days of computers, we used to just use a spike to hold receipts and stuff. And they took that and they rammed it through his ear, through his brain, kill him. So that was pretty vicious about it. He then set about gathering up the money. He had an old put with him, and he had actually sewed up the sleeves. We could stuff the sleeves full of money and coins. And he gathered something around £1,600, which in today's world was about £150,000. So it's quite a lot of money. So he snuck off. I just forgot to say also, by the way, when he was matching him with this bill book, he had purchased a couple of weeks before that some lead shot and made the handle and the blade heavier, so when he sliced him over the head, it was quite an offensive weapon. He got away partly right up the road, and he hid the coat plus his bill book in a hedge. But unfortunately for him, apparently the thunderstorm, and a very, very bad one at that, and it rained and rained and rained and rained, and it was so wet, apparently, some of the money was waxed out onto the road. And a very sharp young constable had to walk in about, saw this, and of course, they recognised the coat. They knew from subsequent investigations that the lead got bought from the shop a couple of weeks prior to that by Montgomery. So they weren't long putting a case together. So, it took 2 years and 3 trials before he was finally found guilty. Apparently, the jury were convinced by a very smart lawyer that Montgomery had some mental issues, and they were afraid to find him guilty because at that time, of course, they were hanged. But on the third case, the judge, I think, was quite strong in the summing up, and he more or less told the jury to find him guilty, which he was. Montgomery's final days were very troubled. He was up in the jail square, which you all know over there. He sent letters to his mother, to his wife, and nobody came to see him. He also sent letters to William Glass's widow, but she never came to see him either. He begged for forgiveness, but she never came back to him. She never replied at all. On the night before his execution, he could hear the guys outside building the gallows, and he wasn't very happy with that. On the day of the actual execution, there were 3 clergymen who came to help him out, and they did say that they thought the man did show penitence, and that he really was sorry for his crime. But that didn't do much good, obviously. 6:30 in the morning. He was taken to the scaffold, and as he went up to the scaffold, he said to the executioner, "Is hanging painful?" So I'm sure it was. And he retained his self-position right to the end, and as he was stepped onto the drop, he shouted out, "Lord, have mercy on me." And a minute later, he was dead. There are letters from the bank and the Ulster Folk and John Corporate meeting about this. And for a bit of a local content, you can find the cashier's desk and a stool in Patrick O'Keefe's pub in Main Street, Drumquin. So if you want to look at a bit of history, it's not too far away. Montgomery himself was the only civil police officer on the island of Ireland to be convicted of murder. So that's something strange. So that very briefly, folks, is a story about William Glass's murder. So there you are. That's it. Thank you.
Establishments that were concerned with policing in Drumquin. Now, there is absolutely no record of any police barracks or anything like that in Drumquin before almost the end of the 19th century. So the RIC, which was nationwide, then appeared in the second half of the 19th century. And in Drumquin, in the middle of the main street, where they tended to put the police station, because obviously it needed some tunnels, there we have the house in Drumquin that was turned into the police station. Now, they weren't purpose-built buildings. Generally speaking, they were rented accommodation for police officers and officers and so on. That was, as I say, rented. That, of course, as time went on, it changed hands. Now, I have no idea who the building originally belonged to. I have been able to find out. But in the 1901 and 1911 census, it indicates that there were 5 police officers living on the premises. There was a sergeant and 4 constables in both years. And they came from all over Ireland. The building was quite well known. I have some pictures of it here. This is the main street at the beginning of the 19th century. And this is the old road here. This is what is Gormley's now. This was my home here. That was Davis's Hotel in those days. And just across the street here, there was this house here. Now, there are what would appear to be 2 officers standing, not just exactly in it, but there was a pub next door. If my memory says me right, it belonged to a man when I was growing up called Sam Moody. That was there. And these 2 police officers were standing outside it. And this, from the other end of the town, you can actually see the roller store on the side of it here. And when I was growing up, 2 ladies lived in the house. That would have been the 40s, 50s, into the 60s. They were mechanics. I remember them quite well. They used to they had a car moved back and they drove out once a week to do their shopping and so on. Whatever kind of law there was dispensed, I suppose, from there. And I suppose, like any village, there were misdemeanors and so on that had to be dealt with. But in its time as police station, there was one very major incident in Drumquin RIC station, and that was in 1920. This names Constable James Munnelly, who was a native of County Mayo, and he and the other police officers that were there in the station were attacked on the day, it was on a Thursday, that was Fair Day in Drumquin, and it was on 28th of August 1920. And the attack took place Sunday in the morning when quite a lot of people were about. And it says here, these things that I have, I was going to say they were blown up, no they weren't, they were enlarged. During the War of Independence, Ireland was undergoing a period of violent political and social unrest, and Tyrone was no exception. Attacks in isolated RIC barracks in rural areas were common, and Thursday the 26th of August 1920, there was an ambush raid on Drumquin RIC barracks by armed IRA men, which resulted in the death of Constable Munley, the first fatality in Tyrone, and Sergeant Bradley, the station officer, was injured. Now, this is has been widely written about, and an enlargement of the report from the Tyrone Constitution goes into the whole day in great detail and tells all that happened and so on. James Munley, he was shot, seriously wounded, and I gather that he lived for about 8 hours, and he passed away in County Hospital in Omagh. And he was, his family obviously came, and he had the last rites from the church. Dr. Campbell and another doctor ministered to him, but they couldn't save him. So he was, on the Saturday then, his family came and his body was removed to County Mayo, where he is buried in the family graveyard there. And a couple of years ago, on the 100th anniversary, the local police service here have a group of people that look after the graves of police officers from whatever time, whether it's RIC or UC or PSNI. And they look after particularly graves that have nobody to look after them anymore. The families have gone away, the families have died out, and they refurbished James Munley's grave, and it was in the local press at the time. Yeah, that's a picture of it there. I wish you can't see too well. I decided to stay away from the high tech to make this a bit more intimate. So that was the main thing that the police station was renowned for. So there may have been other events associated with it. There is the building at the moment, the Credit Union building on Main Street. And I came across a few photographs and of people at it. This picture was taken outside it in 1929, and these 4 people here are police officers. This was the station sergeant, these are the constables. This man here was a local man, James Gowan. I don't know if any of you here would remember him. He lived in Carnegie, and he was a postman. And that was at Main Street, 1929. Something about it. I could go into that attack in a lot more detail, but I think it's so well, has been so well reported in the local press that you'll be able to get it quite into it. If you go online, all of those things that I have there are on the line. So after that building in Main Street closed down, and I suppose after partition then, there was the here you see were there, first of all, and then they moved to the new police station. And the new police station was on the road. This is a photograph of what is called the Type A police station, which were very familiar in all villages in Northern Ireland. The one in Drumquin looked exactly like that. The police sign, except it was the other way around. That this side of it was the police station, and on the other side lived the station sergeant and their family usually. And when I was growing up, that was the case here in Drumquin. The building is now a dwelling house. And I took this photograph yesterday morning. The sun was right behind it, so it's a bit in the shadow, but you can see that is the architect's view originally of the house, and this is the house now that is a private house. But as I say, they were all over the place. That RUC station was opened in Drumquin on the 12th of November 1935, and it closed down on the 19th of May 1967. So it was there for quite a long time, and there were lots of police officers who lived locally while they served in the police barracks. And I've got a picture here, and some of you may have seen this before. You will know the three Browns. These three officers were Constable William Brown, who was from Derry, Constable Thomas Reginald Brown, who was from Florescourt, and Special Constable John Brown, who was from Castleberg. I'm sure many of you knew John. He lived locally, he lived in Drumquin, and these were obviously three men of the same name. They got them confused very easily, so they had to be very careful how they identified themselves. Now, a number of other things about both police stations. Did they contribute anything to the locality? Well, obviously they got involved, like those men were local men. Back in the time of the RIC, the boys who lived in the police station were all very young men. And curiously enough, when I recently talked to Seamus Gormley about this, Seamus told me a bit of interesting family history. That on the day James Munley was killed, he had been walking out, was the term that was used, I think, with a young lady in Drumquin who happened to be an aunt of Seamus's. And she was waiting for him at McInne's shop, and he never obviously turned up. So the police officers did integrate very well with the local communities. So they did. And I have a bit of family history of my own. My wife, who is from Moneymore, her family, her grandfather was an RIC officer who originally came from Bundoran. And he was posted to South Fermanagh, and there he met his wife, and they moved to Moneymore. And in the census of 1901 and 1911, their family were living in Lawford Street in Moneymore. And they had a number of children then by that time. But father wasn't at home, but he was in the police station, in the RIC station, and he was there. In the census returns, the individuals were not identified, just their initials to say who they were. And similarly in 1911, the officers were similarly in the census, in the police barracks, while their families lived. a curious thing that man from Bundoran, his wife from South Fermanagh, made their home in Moneymore, and when he retired, he bought a pub in Moneymore, which was probably another spin-off from the fact that so many young Irishmen of all denominations were in the police service, and it was a pensionable job, which meant that when they did retire, they had something to fall back on. And I think there is a good social aspect of it and to the economy. Now, going back to the other police station on the Road, I think it was due to more modern policing methods, and of course we had the troubles in those days, and all of those type A police stations that we saw had to be fortified in a lot of ways, so they were no longer suitable as a police station, and in that way the main area of policing came from the district, head district police stations like the place here is in North, and that was how policing has moved on, and even nowadays policing is high-tech, no manpower, and working in a completely different way. So the law is still here, and the buildings may not be there, but the building obviously served as a good reminder that there was a law and order, and it was working very well. Thank you very much.
Historical Society about John Crossan, and the theme of our evening is crime, so we have an article here about John the ill-fated attorney. And Danny had a great interest in the McCrossan family because he is related by marriage to John Crossan, and the house that we live in, Lakeland House, was built by John Crossan's father. So I'm just reading it as Danny had written it for this article. It all started off when a man called Peter Doyle took an action against his next door neighbour, John McLaughlin, for trespass. Something about a change to a wall between, damage to a wall between them. Doyle lived in the next house up in Castle Street. He employed John McCrossan to fight the case for him in court. And as John usually did, he won the case for Doyle, who was duly awarded £8 plus costs. But the sting in the tail was that with legal costs, the bill came to £56, 14 shillings and 6 pence, which goes to prove the old saying, no matter who loses, the solicitors always won. McLaughlin refused to pay the debt, or else he couldn't. So John McCrossan issued a writ to his brother Charles, who was an undersheriff for Tyrone and also a solicitor, to serve on McLaughlin and seize goods to the value of the debt. However, Charles, who had his office about where Broderick's pub is now, we don't have a photograph of that, where Broderick's pub is now, decided to walk the short distance to McLaughlin's house, which is just to the right of the entry down Castle Street, and is now occupied by a firm of accountants. Hoping to reason with him and trying to persuade him to go to his brother, who had already sent him a letter offering to take the money in instalments, just as he would be able to pay. But Mr. McLaughlin would have none of it, and was very abusive, and then caught Charles and threw him out of the alleyway and onto the street, closed the iron gate, and he and his wife, along with an apprentice, rolled a baton against the gate and jammed it closed. Earlier in the day, Saturday the 27th of August, McLaughlin had made 2 long iron bars with pointed hooks on one end and handles on the other, and were commonly known as gaffs or cleeks, and were used by poachers to catch salmon or in farming to pull flax out of a dam. He showed one of them to two different people, one of them who was his apprentice, and said it was the finisher of the law. After McLaughlin had jammed the gate closed, he went upstairs and took out both sashes of a window. In the meantime, Charles had sent word to two bailiffs to come and help him to force an entry and seize the goods. When the first one arrived, he sent him to inform his brother who lived in the jail square and the house known as Abbey Hall. What's Abbey Hall there? Abbey Hall. McLaughlin meantime stood in the window with one of the iron bars in his hand, held by the handle, and shouting at Charles what he would do to him if he didn't clear off. Charles said, "Surely you wouldn't attack me with that weapon, as I have only my umbrella to defend myself." It was raining at the time. By this time a small crowd of onlookers had gathered. Just then John came up the street with his umbrella up. McLaughlin disappeared from the window. He had spotted John coming up. John stopped under the window and asked what all the commotion was about. Charles stepped forward and whispered to him to move, as he wasn't safe there. But before he could act on advice, McLaughlin appeared in the window and immediately reached down the iron bar with the cleek on the end, caught him under the chin on the left side and with the cleek on the other end, on the left side, and almost lifted him off the ground. A rapid flow of blood gushed from the wound, which Charles tried to staunch with his hand. John sank to the ground. A chair was produced and he was lifted into it and carried into the house in the jail square. Meantime, the police had been sent for, and 3 constables came right away and saw John was fatally wounded. One of them, Constable McConnell, with some assistance, climbed up and in through the window. McLaughlin was standing with his back to him at the back of the room, talking to his wife downstairs. He arrested McLaughlin, saying, "I'm sorry for the position you have placed yourself in. You must consider yourself a prisoner." Then he took him to the barracks lockup, and in searching him found he had 9 shillings and 6 pence and a letter dated the 27th of August 1864 as follows. Doyle versus yourself. "Sir, I informed you after the verdict that I had no desire to put you to inconvenience in paying the amount of the damages and costs in this case, and I would take it from you by such instalments as you could easily pay. I confess that I have been rather disappointed that up to the present time you have not offered to pay 1 penny, and the matter is made worse when I find you engaged in the same reckless lawlessness for which Mr. Doyle had to bring the action against you. Please come to my office that we can arrange how you are to pay the amount of the verdict and bring what money you have with you. Yours faithfully, John McCarson." Meanwhile, the word had spread through the town, and a crowd of about 150 had gathered as John was carried into the jail square. His children were playing in the front room of the house, and when they saw the crowd of people, they shouted to their mother to come quickly to see a prisoner being brought into the jail. But they were in for an awful shock when their fatally injured father was carried into the house. A priest and 3 doctors had arrived by this time. After his wound had been cleared and dressed, he asked for a pen, ink and paper, and wrote in his own hand, "I wish Dr. Maxwell to be sent for, but if I should die, I charge Mr. McLaughlin with my murder." Dr. Maxwell was a surgeon in Derry. He then wrote out his will. He asked Mr. Coulson RM to be witness of this, and Mr. Coulson took it to the table to sign it. but John said it would not be legal, that it must be done in his presence. At this stage, he had recovered a little and was able to speak, all of which indicated the lawyer's mind was as sharp as ever. Then he asked for his wife and 7 children and bid them individually farewell. Despite the best efforts of 4 doctors who had taken it in turn to look after him, he died 36 hours later on Monday, the 29th of August. Some 2.5 hours later, after McLaughlin was taken to the barracks, he was committed to be taken to the jail by Mr. Coulson, RM. And as he was being escorted past John Crossan's house into the jail, he shouted in a loud voice so that he could be heard in the house, "The robbing rascal! It was not enough for him to rob me, but he came to take away my wife." The funeral took place the following Thursday. The following account of it is taken from the column. The remains of the late Mr. McCrossan were removed from his residence at 10:30 on Thursday morning for interment in the family burial ground in Dragish. About 100 vehicles followed the hearse, besides a large number of horsemen and an immense quantity of people on foot. The funeral was one of the largest we have ever seen. Every class of the community being represented, many from the most distant parts of the country and some from adjoining counties. In the morning carriages following the hearse were Henry McCrossan, Legland, father of the deceased, Charles McCrossan, Sheriff of this county, brother of the deceased, and deceased 2 eldest brothers, Masters Henry and Edward, students of Clongowes College, County Kildare. The second carriage contained the Roman Catholic clergy of the parish, Reverend Manus O'Kane, PP, and Reverend Bernard McNamee, CC, and Reverend Patrick Quinn, PP, and James Quinn, CC, relatives of the deceased. I should mention that Manus O'Kane was the priest that officiated at his marriage on the 17th of August 1849 to Margaret Laws, whose father owned a merchant shop in Market Street, Omagh. He and his wife are buried in Drumquin Old Graveyard. John McLaughlin's trial took place the following year at the March Assizes on St. Patrick's Day. Mr. McLaughlin had trouble getting a solicitor to defend him, and the one that did apologised to the court beforehand that he didn't feel he was qualified to do so, but would do his best. The following extract from the column describes the personalities of both the defence and the prosecuting lawyers. Mr. Hamilton is a small man of pleasing and gentlemanly style. His address was argumentative and at times somewhat eloquent. From his manner, it was evident he was conscious of the difficult task he had to perform. In his speech, there was not much vigour or power. One unacquainted with his style would have thought that he had not prepared for so important. Everyone was satisfied that under the circumstances he had done all that was possible for his unfortunate client. The newspaper commented on the prosecuting counsel. Mr. Dowse is a man of great talent and one of the most rising men at the Irish bar. His speech on this occasion was the best we have ever heard him make. He left nothing untouched. Every particle adduced in defence were swept, as it were, to the winds. His voice was at its highest pitch, rather beyond its natural tone. His hands, and indeed his whole body, were kept in vigorous motion. Every word came forth as quick as lightning, and he seemed to cling with bulldog tenacity to every sentence, as he commanded the jury, roughly and angrily, to find a verdict against the prisoner. In his manner there were nothing of refinement. He batters right on from the beginning to the end, with an opposing counsel and with his own witness, with the jury and with the judge. he is almost equally rough and cross. In fact, he tries to bully them all and frequently succeeds. On the whole, his speech on this occasion was a great successful effort which left little hope for his prisoner. In spite of this, Mr. McLaughlin seemed rather relaxed. It turned out he was under the illusion that he would only be sentenced for a few months or at most a year for manslaughter. His defence lawyer must have given him false hope. However, when the jury brought in the guilty verdict and the judge put on the black cap and sentenced him to death, his demeanour changed. He became very agitated and started to sway, holding on to the rail in the dock in front of him. McLaughlin was due to be hanged on the 20th of April, but in the meantime the sentence was commuted to life imprisonment, and he was incarcerated on Spike Island off Dungarvan, County Cork. Strangely enough, there was a lot of sympathy in the town and district for McLaughlin, for in 1883 a numerously signed memorial was forwarded to Earl Spencer, an ancestor of Princess Diana, in the castle, begging for his release, but the Earl at that time couldn't see his way to release him. However, he was released 2 years later and offered free passage to another country of his choice. But he refused the offer. Instead, he came back to Omagh, where he spent the rest of his days at his old trade, and by all accounts led a quiet life and was well liked. Thank you.
God bless the hills of Donegal, I've heard their praises sung. In days long gone, beyond recall, when I was very young, then I could pray for to see a day before life's course is run, when I could sing the praises of the hills above Drumquin. I love the hills of Dewishby, the heather-clad Orlee, the wooded glens of Cool and the fort on Dunaree, the green-clad slopes of Kirlish as they meet the setting sun, descending in his glory on the hills above Drumquin. Ah, Drumquin, you're not a city, but you're all the world to me. Your lot I'll never pity, should you never greet or be. For I loved you as I knew you, when from school I used to run, on my homeward journey through you to the hills above Drumquin. I have seen the Scottish Highlands, they have beauties wild and grand. I have journeyed through the lowlands, 'tis a cold and heartless land, but I've always toiled content for, when each hard day's work was done. Oh, my heart went back at sunset to the hills above Drumquin. When the winds across Drumbarley make the field